Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London. This morning I'm looking at a book from Tolleys. It's the LexisNexis Tolleys titles covering financial matters. This one's a particularly important one. It's Tolleys Capital Allowances 2014 to 15. They've revamped the way that they produce this financial list of texts, which assists us greatly as practitioners and professionals. And this one in 2010 was the sort of change period, so we're now getting them on an annual basis. This particular one has been written by Kevin Walton and David Smailes. Let's have a look at the book first. It's not a big one. There's the front cover there, spine. Then there's a bit on the back, basically talking about the contents and some quotes of various people, which is, again, very important. The book itself is very much part of the structure. There's the index at the back. It's the house style which Tolleys produced. There are some useful appendix. There's appendix on the Revenue and Customs brief. Then you then get into the text itself quite quickly. You've got paragraph numbering, which you can probably see on the sides there, which assist very, very quickly in finding things. There are no footnotes as such, but there are some useful examples when you're trying to work out what sort of allowances you can achieve. But again, it's very much a hands-on book. This is the front of it here, and it sets out, it's the 27th edition, but as I say, it's now coming on an annual basis at the moment anyway, because of the change that Tolleys produced. Do read the About This Book section. It tells you what's in the book and what they're basically doing with this particular edition. Then we go into the contents section itself. You've got that section there, and it runs all the way through. And at the end there's some quite useful abbreviations and references. It's always useful to have them because I do sometimes forget what some of these abbreviations mean, and we all do, I think. Statutes, and then you've got after that we just get very few cases, just a few, and then we go straight into the introduction, the background, and then we explain current legislation, what is capital expenditure, and so on. So very basic principles there. The total page is just over 500. It's a paperback, quite light, and very much in keeping with what we get from Tolleys. And I've said before, I'll say it again, thank you very much to all of you. It's an excellent service you give us, and I'm very grateful. Now, my wife Elizabeth and I have written a review about this book, which is on the web and in the journals. We've given it a title, Current and Comprehensive Guidance on Capital Allowances, now in a new 27th edition from Tolleys. Now, what we're getting with these editions, and obviously over the years, they do change because of what's happening within the financial policy areas, and with of course what Parliament does. But it is useful to keep up to date because they do get out of date quite quickly. And this one, of course, is running up to the next general election, and then we look to see what will happen with the new Queen's speech and the budget we'll get in the summer. And I'm recording this in the January of 2015 with a few months to go to the election itself. This is what we say, like all reliable books on tax, Tolleys Capital Allowances 2014 to 15 aims primarily to provide practitioners and taxpayers alike with advice and guidance on maximising tax savings, in this case savings on capital allowances. Now, it's published annually, as I've said, by Tolley LexisNexis, and the book is going into its 27th edition, because obviously there have been quite a lot before them over the years, having demonstrably established its reputation and value over those years. It's comprehensive and practical, and it brings together in a single convenient volume the law and practice pertaining to capital allowances, thereby shedding considerable light on a number of related problem areas. Perhaps it should be shredding rather than shedding, but however, they do give you obviously a good insight as to what is available. The most obvious of these, as the authors Walton and Smailes remind us, is that under the UK direct tax system, The present capital allowance legislation presents an exception to the general principle that capital expenditure is not allowable in computing taxable income. What this book achieves is to clear up the confusion that can and does result from this apparent paradox. In fact, allowances are available for expenditure under a range of categories which are explained in detail. These include plant and machinery, renovation of business premises, research and development, and a lot more. Note here that a particularly handy feature of the book is an alphabetized list in Appendix A of what exactly qualifies as plant and machinery, which, by the way, is the most common allowance. The list ranges from advertising signs to loose furniture, window mannequins, and zoo cages. You couldn't make it up, could you? Further advice on plant and machinery in buildings, together with related issues, is provided in Chapter 10 by capital allowances specialist Heather Britton, who in Chapter 18 has also written general guidance on planning principles for capital allowances. So in this new and completely updated edition of what is a highly regarded text, you will find the latest information on capital allowances up to the 1st of July 2014, including the provisions of the Finance Act 2014. We will get a budget, of course, in probably February 2015, but I don't think there's going to be much change between now and the general election on the 7th of May 2015. New material in this book also includes the temporary increases in the annual investment allowance to £500,000, new restrictions on allowances for renovations, and changes to the mineral extraction code. As the subject matter tends to be quite abstruse, the authors Keith Walton and David Smailes have helpfully designed the book for ease of use. It's a distinct advantage, I think, for practitioners under pressure, who will also appreciate the large number of worked examples available throughout the text, the numbered paragraphs throughout, and the detailed table of contents and index. Also, I think it's important to note the extensive table of statutes and the alphabetical table of cases, plus the handy list of abbreviations and references which I showed at the beginning. Let me conclude by saying the journal Accounting has pointed out that there are few existing publications on the subject and none as current or as comprehensive as this. Practitioners as well as accountants and anyone advising on this area of revenue law will certainly benefit from the purchase of this book. And obviously if you are involved in that area you'll know about it and probably have it in your library. That's the book again, spine and then the back. It's nice and light. It's got a section on, as I say, it got mentioned on the front, a section on tax planning by Heather Britton. She comes from the Francis Clark Tax Consultancy Company. So it's a pretty heavy amount of very established knowledge here. That's the middle of the book. You get again an idea of what's in it. I don't think it's over heavy on detail, but I do think that some of the examples that are given are extremely helpful. For instance, we talked about plant and machinery. This is again chapter 7. Very interesting. If that's an area you're advising on, I think you'll find it very helpful. Anyway, thank you very much to the editors and all the people involved, the two authors, all the people involved at Tolleys for an excellent book in their titles. We can't do without these books as practitioners because we need this sort of information at our fingertips in what is a very complex society which is evolving now in fiscal policy. So thank you all very much indeed. Bye-bye.